Very good evening to one and all who joined here today. I am Dr. Ruchi Khair Jaggi, the Dean of the Faculty of Media and Communication at Symbiosis International Deemed University and the Director of Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. And I would be taking you through the proceedings of today evening, which is indeed a very special evening. It is truly an honor to welcome one of the greatest actors from the Hindi film industry, Mr. Aamir Khan, to the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series. I also take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable Chancellor, Symbiosis International University, Dr. S.B. Mujumdar, Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Vidya Yarwadekar, Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Rajini Gupte, all the deans, directors, faculty members, staff members, thousands of students, and the other audience members outside of Symbiosis who are a part of this session on YouTube today. Mr. Khan, the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series is the brainchild of our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Vidya Yarwadekar, to commemorate 50 years of the journey of symbiosis in a thoughtful and enriching way. We have had the privilege of listening to thought leaders, artists, scientists, ministers, authors over the last 1 year as part of this series. It is our pleasure to have the most versatile actor, sensitive filmmaker, and a dynamic producer, Mr. Aamir Khan, as the speaker at the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series today. Before we begin today's evening, may I request Dr. S.B. Mujumdar, sir, our Honorable Chancellor, SIU, to please give the opening remarks.
Namaste to all of you. Dr. Vidya Yarwadekar, the Pro-Chancellor of Symbiosis International University, Dr. Rajini Gupte, the Vice-Chancellor, Ruchi Jaggi, the Director of our Media and Communication School, directors, professors, students, and my dear friends from outside. Today, we are very fortunate to have Aamir Khan with us. Aamir Khan is not new to Symbiosis, nor Symbiosis is not new to him. But suffice it for me to say that Amirji, we are really delighted and grateful to you for your presence. I will tell you that when I was Professor of Botany at Ferguson College, I realized the importance of international students, mostly from affluent countries, who were studying in different colleges and institutions in Pune. They had a number of problems, accommodation, admission. More than that, they had also social problems. And I thought that there should be some small organization in Pune which will look after the welfare of foreign students in Pune. And that is how a small organization called Symbiosis was started to promote friendship and brotherhood between foreign and Indian students. I remember still that day when Symbiosis was born in a small room in my small house on the Ferguson College campus. Now, this institution was first known as Symbiosis International Cultural Center. But over the period, we thought that culture and education must go hand in hand. And therefore, we started educational institutions. And a small idea of Symbiosis, I often say Symbiosis is an idea. This idea flowered into Symbiosis International University. And I am happy to inform you that on 26 January 2021, we will be completing 50 years of Symbiosis.
Wow.
Amirji, at this age, I feel very satisfied, fulfilled of making some difference, little difference to foreign students, to Indian students, and to Pune and our country at large. Many of our past foreign students are occupying important positions. They are industrialists, they are ministers, some of them might be actors also like you. And I'm really happy that we have contributed a lot to the international understanding through quality education. I am really happy that on this occasion you have graced this function, and I'm sure the questions our students might have asked you, I'm sure you will answer them very interestingly, very aptly, and they are eager to listen to you. Thank you so much, sir, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Always a delight when you begin and open any session. Thank you so much. May I now request our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Vidya Yerwadekar, to deliver the welcome address. Ma'am.
Thank you, Ruchi, and welcome, Amir, again to Symbiosis. It's always nice to see you on the campus, but today, nevertheless, virtually. I think my father has already mentioned about the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee lecture, and we couldn't have had anyone, better than you to address thousands of students who are watching you over YouTube live right now. I think, as Ruchi very rightly said, you're not just a brilliant actor, but I think what is more important is the social impact that you have created through your foundation. And I think if you keep motivating young people, both men and women, like those who are studying at Symbiosis and several others, that is not just about becoming great, but it's about what you really do with that greatness to society. And I think that makes the difference. Like my father did something great. I mean, to set up an educational institution and create literally livelihood for several and thousands and lakhs of people who came to study with us and now are at good positions. I'm sure you have also done the same thing. It's not just about the commercial movies that you have been in acting, but even so many movies that carried social impact. And more importantly, through the Pani Foundation, you're doing immense work. I think when we get people like you to address our students, it's not just about the glamour quotient, honestly, but it's about these little impacts that you create to society, because you all are like role models to these youngsters. And let the youngsters not just see the glamorous world or the glamour side of you, but really how you have created a difference in the society. And I hope through the question and answer sessions that Ruchi is going to ask you and several students are going to ask you, this side of Amir Khan comes out, so that at least a couple of students from Symbiosis should feel that, oh, I wish, if I couldn't become an actor, at least I would make a difference like what Amir did to the society. So with these words, I welcome you once again. And we hope after the pandemic, we will see you on the campus of Symbiosis, like we've seen you on several occasions, both formally and informally. But I must admit here that you've really shaped up your daughter very well. She's very professional. And I'm very happy, Ira. We've seen you in pictures as a young girl, as a kid, a young girl, and now a mature woman who's professionally managing Amir's company. So good luck to you also. And I hope our association with your company also grows into greater heights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vidya.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And in fact, Mr. Khan, would you like to say something before we begin the session? Or yeah, thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
I would like to thank Dr. Mazumdar for his kind words and Vidya, and I want to tell them that the feeling is totally mutual. I have the highest regard for Symbiosis and what has been created and the kind of difference it has made to lives of so many young kids and given opportunities to so many different generations of young people. So it's so wonderful, and I'm so happy that you've invited me, and I'm happy to be here. And certainly when the pandemic gets over, I hope to be there, physically as well. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. I hope I'm able to give satisfactory answers to all the questions the students have. And it's always a pleasure, Vidya, to interact with the kids from Symbiosis. So thank you so much for inviting me, and congratulations to all of you, to the staff, and to all the teachers, for completing 50 years. It's really wonderful. Really wonderful, and well-deserved congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before I begin the session, just because Dr. Vidya mentioned it, that you visited Symbiosis on a few occasions earlier, I can never forget that one occasion, the day PV Sindhu won the Olympic silver medal, and you watched the match with all our students, sitting on the ground with them on the large screen outside the mess on our campus. And I think that's one memory that's indelible, that's left an indelible mark on a lot of young minds, including mine. And that's something that stayed with me. That's been your visit. There's so many reasons to remember your visits to Symbiosis, but that just stands out personally for me and for a lot of our students. So thank you for being that person. I think since Dr. Vidya especially spoke about like the young people and how they look up to you for things beyond what you do professionally as an actor, that may be the first question maybe I can begin with, because I think there is a clear relationship when it comes to doing a lot of cinema that you have done with in the context of films which have messages that have youth empowerment inherent in them, whether it was Tare Zameen Par or Three Idiots or Dangal or even Secret Superstar. So from that point of view, I would like to understand your viewpoint on the role of cinema in empowering the young.
Well, certainly, I think that not just cinema, but all forms of art have a very deep impact on all of us. You know, as we grow up, the books we read, the poems we listen to, the songs we listen to, popular culture has a very strong impact on young minds. The cinema is one of them, and certainly cinema has a strong impact and can be, can be potentially a very big tool to bring about change, to sensitize people. I've often felt, that, I've asked myself that what is the role of a creative person in society? You know, like doctors are meant to provide health. The judiciary and the lawyers and judges put together are meant to provide justice. Uh, Police is supposed to provide law and order. Teachers and professors provide knowledge and education. So what do creative people actually give to society? And I've realized that other than entertaining people, I think it's the only set of people who actually affect people's hearts. You know, you can inspire people. I remember the stories that I've heard as a kid from my mother or from my grandmother, or the books that I've read from the age of 6 or 7 years old, and what kind of impact they've had on me. And I've grown a certain way because of all of this impact, which is actually through creative fields, through songs, through stories, through films, through plays, through poems, through dance forms. So I believe that other than just bringing joy to people's lives, I think that creative people also can take on the responsibility of bringing grace to society, of building the social fabric of society, of bringing hope in people's lives, in um, sometimes making them think about certain things, sometimes touching their hearts in different ways. Um, you know, so in that sense, yes, I do believe that cinema is one of those creative mediums which does have the potential, if you so choose to, use it that way. Yeah.
Sure. That's a very beautiful way of looking at it. In fact, your response reminded me of that young poet who recited her poem at the US president's inaugural oath-taking ceremony, just like on the 20th. And that poem has been going viral. You know, it talks about the hopes and aspirations of the young and how such a young person represents that. So that's so very beautifully said, Mr. Khan. Coming a little bit to your body of work as an actor, as a producer, as a filmmaker. I mean, I think I personally also really would like to know, how do you choose your scripts and directors? Because you work with so many first-time directors, and that's like remarkable to see the kind of storytelling that happens and what comes out of it.
Yeah, it's true. I have worked with a lot of either first-time directors or directors who've not yet been established, as successful directors. Um, uh, the and actually, I've been asked this question a number of times: how do I select my films, and how do I? Mm, so for me, it's actually three things are very important for a film. One is the script, the other is the director, and the third is the producer. Um, Script is important because that's what excites all of us, and that's what we are all setting out to make. That's what brings us all together, as a creative team. The director is the one who's going to be leading this, process. So it has to be someone you trust completely, and whose sensibility you trust, whose instinct you trust, whose ability you trust. And the producer has to be someone who can provide the resources so that the creative team can function properly. And once the film is ready, can give it a good release. Because if you can't do that, then it doesn't matter how hard you work. So these three things are very important for me to say yes to a project. Now, why do I say yes to one and no to the other? I mean, sometimes it's not so obvious. Sometimes a lot of it is instinct. A lot of it is, especially when I'm working with new directors and first-time directors, it's I can't see any work that they've done previously. So a lot of it will depend on how I'm able to trust them in my interaction with them.
Okay.
And usually what I'm looking for in a person is the desire to tell a story. So I'll tell you what I mean. If there's a party going on, and imagine there's a 15, 20 people and you're part of the gathering in the evening, and somebody tells you that, why don't you tell us some nice story from your life, some interesting thing, Ruchi, you can tell us about. And you'll think, "Ke main kya bolu?" You'll scratch your head and you'll be wondering what to say, and then you'll think of something and then you'll tell people that story. Now imagine the same part. So that's one way of the incident unfolding. Now imagine the same party going on, the same music is playing, the same people are there, and the bell rings. The door opens and you walk in. And you walk in and say, "Guys, you won't believe what happened to me right now. Arey, music kam karo yaar, meri baat suno. Arey, stop talking and listen to me." And now you will narrate a story. There will be a different energy to that. You may not be a good storyteller, perhaps. But because you're dying to tell the story, you will make sure people get it and people understand and they listen to you. So, the desire to tell a story is something which is very important, which I'm looking for in a director.
Sure.
So these are very intangible things, and then basic understanding of structure of screenplay and, yeah, but mostly it's my instinct, I have to say. Mostly it's my instinct.
I should say then you have possibly the sharpest instincts in the current human history. Like,
But
if one has to kind of look at that, that's amazing because you've just done marvelous work.
I don't know about that, but when we say instinct, we often imagine some flash of brilliance that you're going through. It's not like that. I don't think it's like that.
Mhm.
You see, it's the experience that you have accumulated over time. It's the hard work that you put in over the years, every day, so many hours, the mistakes that you've made, what you've learned from your mistakes, what you've learned by watching other people, what you've learned by working with other people. All this knowledge is accumulated in small little tidbits over the years.
Sure.
And when you're listening to something and you make a decision about something or you're using a judgment about something, it's your brain computing very quickly all of those experiences to decide whether to do this or not.
Right.
And that is actually what is instinct. What we
Sure.
call instinct.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, at a very young age, I had started listening to stories because my father was a producer and my uncle was a filmmaker. He was a director producer. So from the age of 6 or 7, I used to really enjoy listening to stories. So all the writers and directors who would come home to pitch stories to my father, I would sit in the corner and start listening to the story. I'd never imagined I'd ever be in the films. I just wanted to listen to a story. I was a kid who wanted to hear stories, you know. So I must have heard hundreds of stories from the age of 6 or 7 to the age of 14, 15. And I had no idea, but actually that was part of my training. That was part of me honing my instinct.
Sure.
What I like, what I don't like, what do I like in something, what do I not like in something. And then after the story, my dad used to be discussing with people. And I still remember he used to say something which at that time I used to find very absurd. He used to tell the writer when the narration was over, he would say कि आप अपनी कहानी एक लाइन में बताइए. एक लाइन में नहीं बता सकते तो कहानी सक्सेसफुल नहीं होगी. आप एक लाइन में बताइए. तो आई शुड थिंक कि एक लाइन में कैसे कहानी बता सकते हैं? अभी तो 3 घंटा लिया बताने में. एक लाइन में कैसे बता सकते हैं? But now I realize what he was actually saying is, what is your premise? That is the fundamentals of writing. When you're writing for, whether you're writing for a film or whether you're writing for a play, what are you trying to say? आप बोलना क्या चाह रहे हैं? What is your premise? And that you can say in one. Where there is a will, there is a way. That is the premise.
Right. Yes.
तो आपका premise क्या है? So that's what my father was asking actually. आप एक लाइन में कहानी बताइए. And my father also is not a trained filmmaker. He's not been to film school. Neither have I. But today when I understand more about cinema and I start learning about cinema, and as a student, I've read one of my favorite books on writing is The Art of Dramatic Writing. By यार वो writer का नाम Largos Ergi or it's very difficult name. I never remember it. But the book is called The Art of Dramatic Writing, and that's one of my favorite books. It's a very solid book, for foundation of writing and understanding structure and premise, blocking of conflict, all of that, blocking of goal, development of characters is all there. So that's one book which I really recommend to everyone. And the other book I recommend to everyone is The Adventures in the Screen Trade by William Goldman. Adventures in the Screen Trade by William Goldman. If you read these two books, then you've pretty much covered what you need to know, the theory of writing. But actually what I was trying to say is that this I have come to know now, कि premise कुछ चीज होती है. But at that time I was picking it up, you know. So when I say instinct, it's actually what I've learned over the years in so many ways, in so many moments, which come to the front from my subconscious when I'm taking a decision, which we call instinct.
Sure. Thank you for deconstructing instinct so remarkably well, and thank you for.
मैं अपना theory बता रहा हूँ, I could be completely
No,
wrong.
no, but really, and thank you for recommending that bibliography. I think we kind of had a great response from you on that question. Great. But I think I will not stand between you and a lot of audience questions now, because I really like to take them on board now. And like I said, we have a lot of them and we like to make this session very interactive. The first question is from Rachna Chaudhary of Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. Rachna, could you please ask your question? Come online. Go ahead.
It's an honor to hear from you and talk with you. So my question is, you have been an integral part of Indian cinema for more than 30 years now. According to you, in what ways has the industry evolved? And what is your favorite part about the current filmmaking scenario?
What is my last
favorite? Sure, sir, I'll repeat. What is your favorite part about the current filmmaking scenario?
So I think that actually when I came into the film industry in 88 was my first film released in 88, but I began working in 86. I began shooting for it in 86. So I would like to count 86. And even before that, I was working as an assistant director for 4 years. So actually my career in the films began in 83, to be precise, August 83. So it's been like really long and I've seen a lot of changes happening over the years. I think one of the most dramatic changes that I would like to point out is the creative one. I think that, you know, in the 80s, late 70s to late 80s, there was a certain kind of cinema that was popular, which I was not very fond of personally. And I think that from then to now, filmmakers have traveled a long distance in experimenting with content and trying to tell different stories. And I think audiences have been equally welcoming of different kind of content. And that's one of the big changes I'm happy about. The environment of diverse kinds of stories coming in, you know, into the mainstream. Earlier, these films would be, kind of slotted as offbeat films or something like that. But now, more and more different kinds of stories are being accepted in mainstream, and audiences are also changing and growing. And that's a wonderful thing to see. And that's the aspect I like about it also. Technically, there have been many, many changes. I won't go into that. The Sync Sound has come in. Nowadays, we shoot a film in one schedule. Earlier, we didn't. Many, many changes have come in since then to now, which are also there. The market has changed. You know, multiplexes have come in, which earlier they were not there. Now there are OTT platforms. So, you know, internet has become so powerful. So there have been millions of changes, which are all actually very dynamic. But for me, the creative one is the most exciting.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Rachna. I'm going to ask our next student, Anubhav Verma, from the Symbiosis Center of Management Studies, Noida. Anubhav?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Go ahead. Ask your question. Thank you.
All right. So first of all, good evening. Good evening. It is surreal to talk to you one-to-one. So my question to you is, if you could start all over again, what would you do differently? As in, if you get the chance to start your life again, how would you do it? What changes will you make in your decisions? Were there any instances where you would want to go back and change some things or do it differently? It may be a decision or choices that you made.
You know, I have to say, Anubhav, that I would like to do the same. I would like to do it the same way. I don't have any regrets. It's not that I've not made any mistakes. It's not that I've not made, bloopers and I've not regretted stuff. I have. But every mistake of mine has taught me something, and every time I've regretted something, I've learned from it, and it has made me grow and understand something differently. Um, so I think wherever I am today is a result of not just my successes, but also my failures and my learnings. So I think I value my failures or mistakes as much as my successes, I would say. And so I would like to make the same mistakes. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Sure. Rajiv sir, may I please request you to proceed with your question?
Hi, Amir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Fond memories of your last visit to Symbiosis, where we had interacted and seen that match.
Yes,
Well, my question is more of an observation and your views on that. Mainstream Hindi cinema has come a long way since we saw, some fancy stuffs being misrepresented from the medical fraternity side. You had 3 blood transfusions going on in Amar Akbar Anthony, and simultaneously you have this, scenario where pregnancy is diagnosed by merely feeling a pulse and the oft-repeated dialogue, "Mubarak ho, ab baap banne wale ho." As a gynecologist, that pains me. Or the doctor coming out of the operation theater, wiping the sweat on the brow and immediately declaring operation kamyab ho gaya. And we as doctors know what the first 48 hours are so critical for the life and death. But we've come a long way from that. And today we've got mainstream cinema being more, robust and showing facts, whether it's Tare Zameen Par highlighting the concept, the dyslexia problem, or progeria being shown, effectively being shown in PA, or for that matter, the concepts of Padman, Toilet, all wonderful made movies, and even regional cinema. And Dr. Mohan Akash has come up with this beautiful movie called Kasav, which showcases the cause of depression. Or the recent movie of Gabbar is Back, which talks about the malpractices going on in hospitals, commercial hospitals, private hospitals, and relating to the educational part, we've got Arakshan and we've got Super 30, which highlighted the commercialization and the malpractices which go on in the educational sector. So there's a service sector part of it and there's an educational part of it. And I represent a cusp between healthcare delivery and healthcare academics, being part of a university. In our own little way, we've contributed to improving this scenario. We've set up the Symbiosis University Hospital and Research Center, which provides free healthcare to all spread out society, to all residents in the vicinity. Everything right from a simple X-ray to an angiography, angioplasty is made free by Dr. Mazumdar right from the time it was incepted. Or for that matter, in the commercial field of medical education, and about donation, capitation, and how medical education has been totally, if there's a superlative of commercialization, I would like to use that word, but in the absence of and dearth of words, it has been totally, monetized in that sense. And here we have got the Symbiosis Medical College for Women, which talks about women empowerment, because it is the one amongst the 3 medical colleges in the country exclusively for women, and the fact that never before in the history of the annals of medical education in the country are we going to offer 5 scholarships whereby the entire tuition fee is going to be waived off for the entire 5 years. And this has been the dream and vision of a founder chancellor. And we're trying to redeem the situation both from the service sector part of it, curbing the malpractice, making healthcare free, or the malpractice in the education, desisting from donation, capitation. So this is at one end. And then we have episodes of Satyameva Jayate, which talk about doctors' malpractice, which talks about gender detection or sex determination. And we do admit that, yes, there are black sheep in every profession. And as a medico, I do admit there are some in our profession too. It's universal. But what has probably this reflected or resulted in is that it has led to unrealistic expectations from the patients. It has led to doubting the doctor's intentions, and it has corroded the purity and sacrosanctity of the doctor-patient relationship. And this has led to a huge trust deficit between the doctor and the patients. So the purity and the holy relationship, where doctors were considered as demigods, is now busted and exploded. So as a medico, that pains me. Yes, you got to the forefront and to the spotlight the malpractice is going. But दुख होता है थोड़ा सा जब हमारी बिरादरी हमारे कौम के लोगों पे ऐसे एपिसोड्स होते हैं. है थोड़े से बदमाश लोग, पर पूरी बिरादरी पूरे कौम तो बदमाश नहीं है. आमिर जी, योर व्यूज.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने. इनफैक्ट आपने भी बोला कि आपको दुख होता है, you know, when you hear about this or you see it being portrayed like this. Actually, you know, that was one of my most difficult episodes to shoot. It was very difficult for me to shoot it. And I'll tell you why. The reason it was so difficult for me to shoot it was, in our audience, we had medical students. And when we are shooting an episode, the audience does not know how the episode is going to play out. Even I don't know. It depends on what the person answers. But I have some idea because I have done research before it. Exactly what the person is going to say, we don't know. So when that particular episode started playing out, and mind you, they were all doctors saying what they were saying. The people in the show who was saying what they were saying were all doctors, or some of them were patients who had been through a certain experience. It was so troubling for me because as the episode continued, we shoot normally for about 8 to 10 hours from morning to night. The students were getting so disheartened with all the stories that were coming out. And I was getting so disheartened, and everybody was getting so disheartened. And suddenly in the middle of the episode, I broke down. I find as a person, I don't ever curtail my laughter, and I don't curtail my tears also. So I cry as freely as I laugh. Some people get a little psyched with that. But then at one point I stopped and I told the students, I couldn't shoot the show. We stopped for 2 minutes and I spoke to the students. I said, you all should not lose hope. You all are the future. The purpose of the show is not for us to lose hope. The purpose of the show is to understand why it's happening. And that is the purpose of the show. Mind you, we have the highest respect for doctors on Satyameva Jayate. Why? I'll tell you, it's not words, it's actions. In all our shows, no matter what the topic is, we have some doctor or the other giving expert advice. So we doctors have been part of Satyameva Jayate extremely in a very supportive way. And we have depended on their knowledge and their expertise in their various fields. So we have no doubt about that. And in fact, if you see that episode again, you will notice that the depth to which we have gone to understand the problem is something that a lot of people have missed out, unfortunately. I think or maybe more in the medical fraternity, I feel, because in the medical fraternity, and I understand it emotionally, I completely am with you, and I understand it, that when your biradari is criticized, like if the films is criticized, I do get affected, even if I'm personally not criticized. I do get, I feel ashamed, I feel bad, and I understand that feeling. But actually what we had shown in the show, if you remember correctly, is that we had shown that these are the symptoms. Of course, there are many honest doctors, and we had many of them on our show. Dr. Devi Shetty was on our show. There were some, very, very prominent and famous doctors, highly, esteemed doctors were on our show, and they were part of this research of ours. You see, in essence, when you say that perhaps by doing Satyameva Jayate and doing the show, I have caused a loss of trust between the patient and the doctor. I don't know whether I can give myself that much importance that I can cause that loss of trust. I'm the messenger. You see, if I have done something to cause you to lose trust in me, Ira may be just informing you. She's not the cause. The cause is my action, which I have done something, if at all I've done that action to lose the trust. So my action has caused that lack of trust, not the messenger. So that I wanted to place on record. And the other thing I wanted to say, which is very important, is that what we were showing was these are symptoms. Corruption is a symptom. What is the deeper understanding for us is that, you see, over the years in India, government medical colleges have not come up. medical colleges and medical hospitals, which are funded by the government and run by the government and subsidized for students to learn over there. Like we have the old ones. Naya ek bhi nahi aaya 50 saal mein. All the ones are private. You see, all the ones are private. No public institution has come up, and that is the need of the hour. So, what is the need of the hour? When we did the show, what our findings were. We spend about 1.4%, at least that year it was in 2012, we were spending 1.4% of our GDP on our healthcare. And that is the problem for us. That first you increase the amount of, your budget on public healthcare. Then you can start expecting doctors to be honest, there'll be money in the system, things will function properly, hospitals will function properly. There has to be that kind of approach, So we were trying to get to the bottom of it. What is happening in hospitals, or sometimes some doctors are doing and some hospitals are doing. I agree with you, not everyone is doing that. That is a symptom. That is not the problem. That is a symptom. The symptom lies deeper. We as a society have to value healthcare. As a society, whether it's my child or your child or the Prime Minister's child or the labor force person's child, the healthcare should be identical. It should be identical. Your wealth should not be able to buy you better healthcare. The best healthcare should be available to the poor and the rich at the same rate. That is our ideal situation as a society and as a country to reach. That is why we did that show. Our purpose is to reach there. Our belief is that we can reach there. But if we don't stop and examine where we are right now, we will never be able to move ahead. First, we have to examine where we are. And that was the attempt, to examine where we are. I don't know whether I've answered all your...
No, absolutely.
doubts.
It would be great to have you visit our hospital and talk to the girls of the medical college. I
am a person, it bothers me no end when I end up hurting somebody.
No offense meant.
No, trust me, if I hurt a person who I don't know also, I have sleepless nights. I don't like to do that. It's the last thing I would like to do. So if I have hurt you and other people from your fraternity, I really apologize.
No, you don't need to.
Intentionally.
But you need to make a promise.
The children that day, when the students were watching, is that we have to all get together and make it better. That is the intention.
I mean, just a request, you need to come and speak Monday to the 150 girls who've been admitted as the first batch at the medical college.
I would love to. How wonderful.
All these girls are excited. They are online and they are hearing you, but they want an exclusive tea-date with you.
I would love to come, and I will. I'll definitely come.
Thanks, Amit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think Jessica is here now. Jessica, go ahead with your question.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Firstly, my name is Jessica Das. I'm a first-year student at Symbiosis Law School, Pune. I'd like to just start by saying that I've been an admirer of your work for a very long time. So it's truly an honor to be able to talk to you today. My question is regarding the Pani Foundation. The Pani Foundation has had a lot of success recently, where it was also recognized by the Jal Shakti mission. My question is, how would you suggest that students like us and educational institutes be able to contribute to your foundation and other foundations in hopes that to expand their reach for purposes like this?
I'm not sure okay, so I don't know how many people I don't know how many people know what Pani Foundation does and what it is doing. So should I briefly just say that so that people understand what we're doing? No, my daughter is saying no, don't say that. Okay.
No, but I think briefly you must, because there are a lot of new students who have joined, because the earlier ones you've spoken to, but there will be a lot of new students who may not know much.
So then very, very briefly, what Pani Foundation does is that it tries to be the communicator between knowledge and understanding and government on the one side and farmers and villagers on the other side. And we work in rural Maharashtra in areas where there is less rainfall. And we train people how to do watershed management and build their own structures and do their own watershed management work. For this, we run a competition in which we, encourage people, train them, and this has been happening successfully over the last 4 years. In the first year, we worked with 116 villages. In the second year, in 3 talukas. And second year, we went to 30 talukas with about 1,200 villages. And in the third year, we had touched 4,000. And in the fourth year, again, we crossed 4,100 villages that took part. And we are in about 75 talukas now, which is quite a huge number. And so it's gone really well. And it's the success of Pani Foundation really goes to show the kind of spirit and hope and positivity that the villages in Maharashtra have, because actually they are the ones who have done the work. You know, we have only taught them, we have been there to guide them, we have been there to support them, but we have not supported them financially. We have not given them machines, we have not worked for them. They have done their entire work, and so it's to their credit that they have achieved that on their own strength. And from this year, what we are starting to do is we're training. The competition is no longer a 45-day competition; it's now a 2-year competition. And in that, we are training villagers and farmers, not only watershed management, but also about soil health, about grasslands, about recreating forests, and about crop planning, and about water management. So these are the 6 topics that they're going to be taught. And so this is a more holistic training for overall agriculture. And the idea being to try and make Lakpati Kisans and try to make Kisans economically very, very strong and make it viable for them. That's the idea. What can students do? I think Satya, probably, who is the CEO of Pani Foundation, is probably a better person to answer this question. But we do have a schools program in which we sensitize kids. One of the things that, I think I would prefer for Satya to answer this question. I'm not sure that I'm the right person to answer, I'm afraid. Because I can suggest simple things like, doing Shramdan, going to villages and working with them, etc. And, making excursions for like 2 days, 3 days and working with villagers. That will be a great experience. And I'm sure Pani Foundation can actually, Vidya, they can even organize it for you, in the sense that all the coordination, which village to go to, where there is work happening.
Yeah, so I've been in touch with Satyajit Bhatkar, and we will be involving students because we have a service learning component anyways for the undergraduate students, and they do 4 credits of service learning. So that is on our cards that we need to get the students connected. We could also get the agribusiness students connected because you all are doing so much, and we look at the business part of agriculture, and I we can do wonders here where we can connect the dots, you are looking at the creative part of agriculture where how to produce, and then we will look at how to promote it as a business. So I think offline interact with Satya, and we'll connect the law students certainly.
Okay,
I'm sure most of our institutions will be able to connect, especially the Symbiosis Institute of Geoinformatics, which does a lot of work in the drought-prone areas and identifying through, the GIS techniques and so on. So
cool.
It's a good question, Jessica. It's nice that you asked.
Thank you. Thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And I don't know, Itishri, because Itishri's question is very interesting. I don't know if she's online or not yet. Itishri? Okay, so can I just ask the question on Itishri, who's a student of our Symbiosis Institute of Digital and Telecom Management, her question. So Mr. Khan, she wants to ask you that if your life was based on a film, which one it would be?
Oh. Arre baapre. I'm not sure I can answer that question honestly. I'm afraid I'll have to, because an honest answer of that question will be revealing too much about myself. I'm not happy doing, and I'm not happy lying. So I'll pass on that question.
Oh, I think Itishri got that vibe. Hence, she could not unmute herself.
She has speechless.
All right. So maybe if you feel like answering it by the end of the session, I think our audience would really be looking forward to hearing an answer to that. But I'll move on to the next question now and to the next student. And her name is Sakshi Pathare. Sakshi, if you are online, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Go ahead, Sakshi. Sakshi is again from the media school. Sakshi, go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening, sir and ma'am. It is such an honor to be in conversation with you. So my question is, we have all seen how dedicated you are with your remarkable physical transformation in Dangal. But in today's world, just being passionate is not enough to achieve one's goals. So what else is a driving factor that motivates you to perform so extravagantly in all your films?
You know, in your question, you said one line which I want to like kind of latch on to, is that you said in today's times, only passion is not enough. Actually, passion is enough at any given time, at any different ages, along the centuries, along the decades. Passion is the one thing that actually pulls you through in anything. So I don't feel passion is not enough. In fact, passion is the most important ingredient for anyone to achieve what they want to in their walk, in their field, whatever their field is. I think there has to be a lot of curiosity in a person, a desire to learn, a desire to grow, a desire to, um, you know, uh, take in, and only then can you give out if you've taken in. So a desire to grow, a desire to learn is very important. Being passionate is very important. Being persevering is very important. Not giving up. Being hardworking is very important. So there are all of these qualities, and there's a bit of luck involved. But since luck we can't control in any case, we should not even bother about it. We should do all the other things that we can, and not just because we should, because that way you have a great time. You really enjoy yourself here. When you like throw yourself completely into something, you really enjoy the process, and the journey becomes exciting because the end result is often not in our hands, whether we'll reach our destination the way we want to, but the journey is, and we can make our journey fun and exciting. So that's what I feel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Mr. Khan. So Jaydev Rehi is our student from the Symbiosis School of Sports Sciences. So Jaydev asks that as an actor, what is your first feeling or reaction when a film does not deliver as expected to the audience? And then how do you process that?
Okay, so there is a stage before that actually, which I'd like to talk about. Is that when we've made the film and when I see it for the first time, before the audience sees it first time, I'm seeing it, Now that's a very important stage for me. When I'm watching the film, have we achieved what we set out to? How close have we come? Have we not achieved what we set out to? Have we completely messed it up? That reaction is my own reaction to my work is very important to me. And that's a very important stage for me. If I don't like what we have in the first stage, and that is what is going to release, then the excitement within me to know how people are going to like my film drops very dramatically. Because I only don't like it. तो मैं किसको क्या पूछूं कि आपको कैसी लगी? मुझे ये अच्छी नहीं लग रही है, मैं सामने वाले को क्या पूछूं? However, if I have liked my film and I really like what I've made and what we have made, and then that comes out and that doesn't do well, that's not happened actually. That's so often. Usually my films which have not done well, I only have not liked them, before the release. And I'm aware that we've not ended up succeeding in making what we want. And that's a very, it's a very traumatic feeling actually, I have to tell you, because what happens is you've made the entire film and sometimes it's taken you very long to make it. It's cost a lot of money, a lot of effort has gone in, a lot of resources have gone in, and you see the film and you feel it's not working. And you don't have the heart to even think of trying to do it again or redoing some parts, because sometimes it's, quite wrong and it's very difficult to correct something sometimes.
Yeah.
And then also everyone has to be on the same page. Like I might feel it's a disaster, but the people working with me might feel it's great. So they may not want to change anything. So, it's a little tricky, but I know what the question is, and I'll try to answer that. Is when I come across a piece of work of mine, which I find that I have not done well, which I'm disappointed with myself, and which doesn't work, not just for me, but not for the audience either. That is a very traumatic thing for me, because initially I find that I get very deeply affected by it, and I grieve for many days, actually. I also want to understand why I went wrong. And that is something I keep coming around to. Why did I go wrong? Why did I go wrong? Why did we go wrong? Why did we go wrong? And I'm very keen to understand that. So a lot of my effort goes into understanding why we went wrong. And then I talk to the director and producer about it, and we try and understand what went wrong. And then the fact that it went wrong is something that I want to accept and I want to grieve, so that I can grieve it and then I can, put it behind me.
Yeah.
I don't want to sweep it under the carpet and say, "Nahi, sab first class hai, sab changa hai, everything is fine." I want to say, "Nahi yaar, disaster thi, bahut buri thi, aur humse bahut galti hui, and we have to make sure we don't make the same mistake again." We can make new mistakes, but not the same. Yeah.
Sure.
But
Sure.
it takes time to learn, when you make something that you're not happy with, that's the time you learn actually.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that very self-reflexive response. May I now request Simranpreet Johal of the Symbiosis Institute of International Business. Simran, please ask your question. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, dignitaries. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Simran.
So I'm really excited to speak with you today, frankly, and I'm sure it's the same for all of us here. Sir, you spoke of hope and you spoke of the ability of storytelling and how it can impact so many people and touch the hearts of so many people. So my question to you today is, your show Satyamev Jayate, it struck a chord with the audiences when it shed light on some of the major social issues that have been grappling our country since a very long time now. Now that COVID has happened, India has been facing additional set of issues related to unemployment and mental health, especially amongst the youth. So have you thought about bringing back the show and helping people know that they're not alone in this fight and their journey?
Actually, Simran, a number of people have asked me and Satya, who's the director of Satyamev Jayate, and the core team, why is our show not back on television and why don't we have another season of the show? And the reason is that the team of Satyamev Jayate, the core team, and all of us working together on Satyamev Jayate, that entire team has shifted from there to Pani Foundation. And Pani Foundation is taking off full time. It's like a 24/7 thing. Because we're working in Maharashtra, which is, it's a state in India, but actually, if you look at Europe, it's bigger than Germany. Not only in its population, but even in its area. So we're actually talking about a country in Europe that we are working in. So our entire concentration and time and effort and resources is concentrated on working in Maharashtra in the drought affected areas. And that is something that we are getting success in, and we are moving ahead and, learning actually, to be honest, as we are going along. So we are unable to do the show. It's not possible for us to do the show. Unfortunately, I would love to do it. But unfortunately, it's not possible for us to. That's the fact. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simran. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. I think there's going to be a little bit of, sort of a heartbreak for many people to hear that maybe it's not possible for you to do the show anymore. I think a lot of people I see that out on social media also, where a lot of people just keep asking when is the next season of Satyamev Jayate going to be there. So yeah, okay. So I'll invite Anuroop Tiwari to ask the question. Anuroop, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, sir. First of all, this moment is surreal. And I want to say that I'm a fan of humongous proportions, sir. Jabra fan, sir. So my question to you is, sir, that today we are witnessing this advent of OTT platforms and diversification of various contents. Means there are many things that one could take recourse to. So with this, do you think that the era of that means fan following, there used to be a fan of, there was a time when a person had a fan, right? And he would hold a big sway and influence on one person's life, on his life. But now what is happening today is one is not able to follow one particular character keenly. Like there was a time when Amir Khan or Shah Rukh Khan was the one who was followed, and people would just go to watch their movies without even having any perspective or any other view, just because the very fact that Amir or Shah Rukh or any other person who is there would suffice. So do you think, how do you opine? What do you reckon? Is this trend good? Is this trend bad? How do you see it?
No, I think that I'm not totally clear that I've understood your question. Let me try to speak about what you've mentioned. See, I feel that creative creative storytelling is still the same, largely.
Yes.
I mean, broadly speaking,
Yes,
the
sir.
platforms are changing. So there's cinema, then
Yeah.
there's OTT platforms, there is
Yeah.
long form storytelling, there is storytelling within 1.5, 2 hours, or 2.5, 3 hours, and then
Right.
there's continuous storytelling of different episodes, and you can make it into different seasons and go on and on. So
Yes.
these are different forms of storytelling, but they are still creative work.
True.
So I think that I personally feel it's wonderful to have different kinds of and forms of storytelling around. It's
Absolutely.
really wonderful. You'll still have stars. I think there will be newer stars. There'll be different stars. Uh, Even on different platforms, there will be different stars. Like on television, you have stars. You'll have OTT stars.
Right.
You'll have stars who are part of the films. I mean,
Right.
unless the theaters shut down, which I hope doesn't happen. Because now that the vaccine has also come out, within the next 2 months, I think it will start being available to everyone. And slowly, I think people will start. I mean, there was a film in the South, a couple of films in the South,
Right.
gone through the roof in the collections.
Yes, sir.
So in our side, in the north, and in the Hindi speaking areas where we release films, over there we've not aggressively yet released our films. We've kind of held back.
True. True.
So I think once that happens, once theaters start getting aggressive, once the films start releasing, once the vaccine spreads, and people start getting more comfortable, I think the theaters will come back, and theaters will you'll see the joy of watching a film in a theater is total. You can't replace that.
Certainly.
Can't replace that. The kind of sound you get, and it's a collective viewing.
True.
I'm laughing in 3 idiots, if I'm laughing alone, and if I'm laughing with 200, 500 people, it's a totally different experience.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
It's a collective experience of movie viewing, and that can't be replaced. So I think the theater, it's a matter of time for it to come back. So there will be stars in cinema, there'll be stars in OTT, there'll be stars in different platforms, I feel.
Right.
And each platform and each form has its own strengths.
Yes, sir.
And as creative people, we should know how to use all of them to their full potential.
Right, to our advantage, yes. But there can only be one Ranchor Das Chanchad, and that is you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anurup. Thank you so much. I think what also I think Anurup's question, when I read it earlier, also had a part of it in it, Mr. Khan, was that you very rightly said about theaters. And I have a colleague in the department who teaches film, who always argues that the theater creates stars. The entire the magnificence of the theater creates the stars. And if theaters don't come back, if that's an extreme situation we are envisaging, then maybe we might even not have stars the way we had them for time to come, because OTT possibly is more about characters and
stars रहेंगे.
Okay.
Actually, for stars you don't need cinema. Cinema.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people are stars because what they do, what their art is, resonates with people.
Yeah.
You have in India, you have Kalidas, you have so many, you have Jnaneshwar. So people have connected with them. They are stars.
Yeah.
Stars in their own right, and they have connected with people on an emotional way. So you don't have to be in a cinema hall to be a star.
Sure.
It's your heart that connects with people, that makes you popular with people, and people connect with you.
Yeah. But as someone who is so popular and has been so popular for decades now, how do you think that the overexposure that a lot of public figures, celebrities, especially from the media, as they kind of live their lives on social media, how much does it normalize them for the common public, or does it still create that intriguing dimension for them? I mean, it's a very tricky thing to kind of ask, but I mean, how do you look at social media?
I'd like my work to speak. I'd like to speak through my work. Many things I want to say through my work. I don't want to say them verbally.
Okay.
I don't want to explain my work. I want people to experience my work. There's a difference between that.
That's so beautiful. Yeah.
I like to remain silent, and there are different opinions on what you have asked. Some people will say that, yes, it makes, when you're too much available to everyone on social media, then you lose the, quality of being mysterious or being someone who's not reachable or not accessible all the time, not freely accessible. On the other hand, people will say, oh, you become more popular because you're on social media. I know each to his own. Yeah.
Sure.
As far as I'm concerned, I like to communicate through my work, and that's what I really like doing. I'm not a very talkative person on social media. So I don't, that it reflects my personality. Let me put it that way.
Sure. Thank you for that response. And now I request Jigyasa Malvia from the Symbiosis Center of Management and Human Resource Development to ask her question. Jigyasa, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My name is Jigyasa, and I absolutely admire your work. So my question is that most of the movies that you deliver are movies with messages. So how do you strike a balance between your movies delivering a message and keeping the audience entertained? Taking into consideration, we have a diverse audience where some may look out for entertainment and others for message in the movie.
Well, Jigyasa, that's a very good question. And I'd like to actually answer it in a way that, so for me, when I'm selecting a film or I'm doing a film, I'm not thinking commercial, non-commercial. I'm not thinking message, no message. That's not how I'm thinking. I like a story. I love a story. I want to be part of it. It may have a message. It may not have a message. I know that my primary responsibility to my audience, my primary responsibility, it may not be my only responsibility, but my fundamental and primary responsibility to my audience is to give them a good time. That's why they've come to a theater. They've bought a ticket and they've come to a theater. If they wanted a lesson in sociology, they would have gone to a college. The fact that they've come to a theater, they want to have a good time. So my primary responsibility is to give them a good time. And also my primary responsibility is to myself as a creative person to do what excites me, to do what makes me, come alive and do stuff which I want my audience to share and experience. So it's a combination of what excites me so when I'm selecting a film, I'm not thinking of now which social issue should I pick. Not at all. I'm only reading scripts to see which one affects me. It may not have a social message. It may just be something very emotional that I'm drawn to. Like Talash, it's a film about how to, coming to terms with loss. It's a very unusual topic to make a film on. Coming to terms with loss. Each one in the film has lost somebody or something, and they all are struggling to come to terms with it. Now that is a concept that excited me. That's why I wanted to do that. So for me, every film needs to be commercially viable. So in that sense, I want to make sure nobody loses money on my films, and I make sure that we structure the funding and the economics in such a way that if there's a loss, I take it. I don't allow anyone else to take the loss. I take the loss, and if there's a profit, then everyone earns. In any case, so I like to pick films based on what affects me emotionally. Like, and sometimes it's just fun, like I've produced Delhi Belly. Now, if you look at the films like Tare Zameen Par and, Dangal and our films, which are very, very, sensitive about women's issues or about issues of students and children. And on the other hand, Delhi Belly is an extremely, irreverent film, has language which a lot of people find offensive. I'm the same guy who finds both things exciting. I find that funny and I find this, important. So I think as an artist, I want to express and experience different kinds of genres and material. And I don't want to be restricted to any one. So I guess the fact that I get more attracted to stories which have something to say other than just entertain you do tend to attract me. Now that may be just my personality, in retrospect, we can see that, okay, he's getting attracted to films which are trying to say something. But whether they say something or not, I want to give you a good time. And that is where that's my starting point. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jigyasa. Thank you, Mr. Khan. And now we have the last question from Jenica Mehta of the Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. Jenica, are you online, and can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, Jenica.
I am unable to turn on my video. Ma'am, could you just please
Okay, that's fine. Ask your question, Jenica. We can hear you well.
Okay, all right. All right. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Jenny.
It's hi, sir. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking to you today. And I just want to thank you for all the beautiful and unconventional views that you've given us in the course of this evening. And it's been a most enlightening session.
Thank you.
Sir, my question to you is that your work in Bollywood over the years has been fairly diverse and has touched upon so many different ideologies or concepts. And I just want to know, sir, since you mentioned in your views that you haven't been to film school, whom do you look to for inspiration in Bollywood or Hollywood in any category? If you are looking for inspiration as, say, a Bollywood star, not even say Bollywood, but a star or an actor whom you find inspiring, who would that be, sir?
Actually, you know, I don't, Jenica, I don't find any one person, any one particular person inspiring. That's not how it is for me. And I can understand it. That is how it is for a lot of people, and that's good. But for me, I find I get inspired by many things. I get inspired by different people. I get inspired by great work. If I listen to a good poetry, I get inspired. If I listen to a nice joke, I get inspired. You know, something which is very fine in its quality inspires me. Someone who's like, you know, I sometimes I see Federer playing tennis or Nadal playing tennis or Djokovic playing tennis, and that inspires me. You know, so many things. People inspire me. Like in Pani Foundation, the work that we do, because of that, I come across a lot of people in rural Maharashtra, and their stories are so inspiring. It's, you know, it's unbelievable. So a lot of things inspire me. A lot of moments inspire me. So there's not any one thing. I find that I get inspired by a lot of things around me. Yeah.
Okay.
Amir, I think there's one student, an engineering student, who's written on my chat box, and he desperately wants to ask you, if you don't mind, that could be the last question.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Sir, I'm a big fan of you. Like, I have read your back. I have seen many of your films. So my question is, I'm from mechanical engineering students from SIT Pune. So my question is, what are the challenges before a person face before he reaches his success? Please mention 5 points.
Oh. Before anyone reaches a success, I think probably
Yes, sir.
The first step is learning. Whatever you want to do in life, you should equip yourself as best as you can. If you haven't done that, then you're going to get no help from the first step. So the more you, the more you learn, the more you work hard, the more you practice, the more you engage in that activity, the more you get better at it. So that, I think, is the first step. The second step is, I suppose, your ability to engage with other people. I think that is a quality, Naveed, that I think helps no matter which profession you're in. My ability to connect with my co-workers, my ability to connect with my colleagues, my ability to connect with with the people around me will ensure how successful I am, how well I do in life also. That's the second thing. The third thing is, of course, application and hard work in no matter what field you're in. So equipping yourself, training, your ability to engage and connect with people, the amount of hard work that you do, your quality of not compromising and not giving up to achieve what you want to is also a very important quality. And I think the last quality is that you need to be honest with what you are, and you need to enjoy the journey that you're on. And, like in Three Idiots, Rancho says that if you want to be successful, don't chase success. You chase excellence. And when you chase excellence, success comes chasing after you. So, you know, in that sense, I would say that these are the 5 things I would give importance to, that, you know, you make yourself capable, you apply yourself really hard, you work at your relationships, you know, don't give up on your dreams, don't compromise with your dreams, and enjoy what you're doing. Because when you enjoy what you're doing, you do it well. And that journey becomes, you know, fulfilling and meaningful. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
That was like a remarkable, you know, parting shot. In that sense, you know, how you kind of summed it all up so beautifully. So thank you for this really remarkable, candid, and profound conversation. But before we close, I'll request our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Rajni Gupte, to propose a more formal vote of thanks. And I've been seeing her smiling through the session. So I know when she speaks smiling, she speaks from her heart. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Ruchi. On behalf of the Chancellor, Dr. Mazumdar, the Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Vidya, and on behalf of the Deans, Directors, Faculty, Staff, Alumni, and the students of the Symbiosis International University, I thank you, Shri Amir Khanji, for your very gracious presence at the Symbiosis Golden Jubilee Lecture Series. Incidentally, this is the first one in 2021.
Thank you.
For each one of us, you are the iconic actor whose roles are indelibly etched in our minds. Hence, the excitement was really palpable when we heard that you would be the guest speaker today. And as usual, your presence was mesmerizing. In fact, Dr. Vidya mentioned how Dr. Ruchi mentioned what she remembers of your presence on the campus. But I remember the day you walked into our convention hall when Dr. Ruchi's institute was hosting an event with 2 young stars of Dangal. That was when you came here for the shooting of Dangal.
Yes.
Today you spoke so very eloquently about how art touches people's lives through plays, movies, books, bringing grace and touching the social fabric of society. That was so beautifully put. You also appreciated the opportunities for creative work that prevails currently. You spoke about learning from failures and looking at each task as a new opportunity to learn, to introspect, and to perfect your craft. We also got a brief glimpse of your commitment to social causes and your innate desire to show people the malaise in society. All of it was very highly inspirational. I hope these are the things that our students learn from you. Your passion, your perseverance is something I believe all of us can learn from you. The personal anecdotes and the stories that you chose to speak about shows us what helps you decide what is deeply important to you. It was so nice to hear you speak about your passion for listening to stories in your childhood, which honed your instincts for choosing the right scripts to work on. And I think that's something all of us find truly amazing. I personally am in awe of your phenomenal work, your ability, your compassion, and your sheer energy. I take this opportunity to thank you for so graciously spending time with our young students and answering their questions so very patiently. Thank you, Dr. Ruchi. Thank you, Dr. Vidya ma'am, for inviting such a popular and acclaimed star amidst us. Thank you, Dr. Mazumdar sir, for your gracious presence. Finally, thank you, Rachna, Anubhav, Jessica, Itishvi, Sakshi, Aman, Jaydev, Simran, Anurup, Jigyasa, Jenica, and Naveed for all those questions which got Mr. Khan talking. Finally, like you said, you like your work to speak for you, and we hope that we see a lot more of it in the years to come. Thank you so very much for being with us today. We look forward to your coming to campus and addressing the students in person, because there's nothing like really seeing you in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for this very, very beautiful vote of thanks. And you just captured all our sentiments so eloquently. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to Dr. Vidya for being the force behind everything that we are getting these opportunities to experience for. And thank you to the Symbiosis IT team for always being such a support when we do these events online and making it so seamless for us, to the branding team, to everyone. And thank you so much to Ms. Ira Khan for being our support at your office, for seeing, for us to have organized this and coordinated it. It was so seamless and she was so spontaneous and quick. So just wanted to say thank you to you, Mr. Khan, for sparing your time, and to Ms. Ira Khan for her support. And of course, deep thank you to Dr. Vidya for being the person behind all of this. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Gupta ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Amir. And we'll see you, hope to see you soon.
Dr. Rajni, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I want to say that I really enjoyed the questions and I really enjoyed having this conversation. And
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you. We
you.
really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
And you'll soon have the Symbiosis Media students interning with you.
They already are. They already are. Yeah.
4 of them with me already in our office right now as we speak. I think they're also watching this. So yeah. So thank you so much, and lots of love to everyone watching.
Thank
and
you.
take care and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khan.